Hello and welcome to another episode of Metapsychics. I'm Liv. This is M. M, say hi.
I think you almost forgot your name.
I did. I was going to say M 100%, which we've done in YouTube videos in the past, but that's besides the point. We are your sidekicks to all things metaphysical, best friends, business partners, twin flames, and we're here to talk to you with Schuler Johnson of P.I.O.T Paranormal. Schuler, say hi.
Hello, everyone. How are you doing?
I'm sure they're doing fine. And if they're not, eat a cookie, drink some water, maybe drink some milk. It makes my brother feel better, and he's a grown adult.
Oh, God.
What? It's true. But today, we're going to be talking with, again, I told you, Schuler Johnson, and he is a paranormal investigator especial professional, which we are not. We're just psychic mediums.
But we want to be.
We want to be as cool as Schuler.
But we're very much beginners at the beginning of our ghost investigation journey.
The baby weebs.
Baby weebs.
But he's going to tell us all of the do's and don'ts of paranormal investigation. I'm so excited.
So do you first want to tell our audience like who you are, what you do, all the experiences that you have?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, that's not a problem. I do have a lot, so I guess I'll just start with like one or two. I don't want to keep you guys held up too long, but
I need the PowerPoint presentation. It needs to be cited, MLA format, single space.
Well,
It's 12
I have
pages.
questions about your other investigations. So first just start with like what you do and how much experience you have, you know.
Okay. Yeah, no, that sounds good. Yeah, again, my name is Schuler Johnson, and I've been in the paranormal field for about, 12 years now? Yeah, since 2011. I started when I was 17. I was in high school. Just kind of didn't want to do the boring stuff anymore, playing video games, going out, seeing movies or whatever. I wanted to start doing the things that I've seen on TV, and I figured, let's look up some local locations, and Indianapolis actually had quite a few, and I grabbed some of my buddies up and said, hey, let's look some things up here. Let's try some cemeteries. And of course we did. That was actually the first investigation we ever did, was a cemetery in the center of Indianapolis, the Crown Hill Cemetery. Very, very haunted, by the way. It's a very unique location. But what really captured my mind and has captured my heart and a little bit of my soul is the gem of Indianapolis, Indiana. I'm sure so many people have heard me say this, are probably tired of it, but it's a Central State Hospital. It's a mental asylum. And that place literally changed my life. And, from all the experiences I've had, that place really sticks home with me. It does. And as a 17-year-old all the way up to 21, I had quite a few years at that location, and others too to compare to, and that really opened up a lot for me. It did. That's
great. So you were the one that kind of instigated the investigation team, is that correct?
That's right, Em. Okay. Yeah, I formed it, and I had a buddy of mine help me with the logo, and we just kind of got buddies together and we started doing weekend trips.
So I have a lot of other friends that also have ghost investigation teams, and they all have like a story that got them into it. So I was wondering if you had one of these experiences or stories that really like, this is what I want to do. I've had this paranormal experience that has really gotten me into ghost investigation.
Right. Yeah, no, that's a really good question. In a nutshell, I think I've, shared this a little bit prior. It's something that I really didn't think a lot of in my earlier years. And it wasn't until I started watching Ghost Adventures at the, age of 17. And I really just wanted to test the theory of these TV shows and even the Hollywood movies like Paranormal Activity. How real are they? Why is spirituality so taboo? Why are churches so, not all churches, but why are a lot of religions and churches so close-minded, if you will? Why can't we go out and talk to spirits without it being called witchcraft or, devil worship, or we're doing something bad? There's a lot of different things I wanted to test, and I ultimately wanted to test, is spirituality even real? Are there spirits? What happens after we pass? There's got to be more than just the flesh going to work and all that fun stuff. So that's really what piqued my interest. I got some buddies together that some weren't as happy, they were kind of spooked in the beginning. But I'm like, come on, it'll be fun. We'll go on trips, maybe we'll stop by McDonald's or White Castle, I'll buy you coffee or something, It's, and typically food, it really won a lot of my friends over. So they hung out with me in cemeteries and asylums at that point. But ultimately, what really got me in love with the supernatural after the fact of just trying to test if it's real was probably my first my first 4 visits to Central State. So my very first investigation was Crown Hill, and then the second was Central State, and then 2, 3, 4 onward. But the first 2 investigations at Central State, it was more just creepy vibes, old dilapidated buildings. It's I don't know, that not a lot happened. I did hear some stuff, with the team that I was with those first 2 times. We heard things, but it was also kind of rainy the first time. The second time, it was damp. So, it could have been water or whatever. Nothing significant there that I could tell you it was like a person or a monster or whatever, it's like whatever. But up until the 3rd and 4th visit, things started to change. And I think the reason why that changed and we started getting more activity is because we started to actually talk. We actually started to put out our energy. We were even naive enough to offer our energy to any and everything that was in that environment. And that's when things started to actually pick up. And, I don't know why we went back so many times when we got nothing, the first couple of times. I really don't. Maybe it's because there was 7 buildings to explore on this 148 acres of land, but it was fun. So maybe that's what brought us back to it. But what really set in stone was when we started to, I guess, interrogate the spirits. We started to provoke a little bit. We took what we saw from TV and brought it to our investigations. We started to get poltergeist-like activity. And it started in the women's ward building of Central State. Down in the basement level, they had underground rec rooms. I don't know why they would do it underground. I mean, those are other stories for other times with mad scientists and just negative people wanting to be mean to individuals that weren't deemed good enough for society. But there were underground recreational rooms along with the boiler rooms. But eventually, it started in the rec rooms, and we would have batteries thrown at us. We would have pennies thrown at us, nickels, dimes, rocks, little bits of glass, you name it. Anything that was there on the floor from the debris of the building, they were being picked up and thrown at us when we would provoke and when we would ask for a sign. And before we provoked, before we offered our energy, we would have these objects thrown against the wall close to us. And man, let me tell you, when they were thrown with force, like something was pissed. But then when we started offering our energy along with, communicating and then provoking, the things started to hit us. So it's like we kind of broke that barrier and we allowed them to. But until we offered that opportunity for them to interact with us, one-on-one physically, they never touched us. They never actually hit us with anything. They literally threw everything around us. It was almost perfect, that they didn't hit us. They never actually hit us until we asked for it. But yeah, it's stuff like that at Central State, man. It's still it bleeds right into my mind. It's so vivid. It's so overwhelming. I don't know if you can tell, but I kind of stumble on my words because I'm reimagining the environment. And it's just so real, and I just can't believe that stuff actually happened. It's wild.
Yeah, the location that you're talking about, I feel like you may have been picking up on a lot of clairsentient feelings or vibes of it, because there's a lot of different things within it, but that's what I feel like maybe brought you back there time and time again. But
right.
Was that one of your best investigations? That was the one that changed things for you?
It was the beginning. There were 2 in particular that actually made it a game changer, I guess. But that particular investigation was kind of what drew us in. We started to really have validation that something was there. And thinking about it, actually, the second investigation, the second time that we went to Central State, we didn't get much, but I say we didn't get much because it was only one thing because we left right after, but I actually got touched on my shoulder by a hand. I felt the bones, I felt the fingers, and the craziest part about it is when the hand actually grabbed my shoulder, there was an it was electrifying, it was those little pulsating patches that you put on your muscles to relax you if you have sore or tense muscles. It was like you put one of those on, and the electricity was pulsating through my shoulder when I felt this hand grab me. And prior to this experience, I was talking to the inhabitants of the women's ward. Again, this was down in the women's ward, but it was in the hallway in front of the rec room. And this was before poltergeist activity. I don't know, the hand happened, but right before the hand grabbed me, my flashlight and the only other individual that was with me, there's only 2 of us this time, our flashlights started to flicker, and then they went completely black. Completely black. My buddy was about 10 feet away from me, pretty good distance, and then that's when the hand came right up on me. That was my buddy's first time being there. That was only my second time. So it's not like we had the area mapped out. There's debris all over the place, rusty pipes, there's syringes. It's really not something you want to play around in without a flashlight. So I, honest to God, believe it wasn't my friend doing that. And as soon as I got touched, I screamed like a little girl. I start smacking my hand, with my flashlight.
Same.
And I'm still screaming. Like at that time at 17, I still had a high pitch enough voice so I could actually scream a little bit like Home Alone. But yeah, it was crazy, man. So I kept smacking my flashlight and it finally came back on. It was kind of spitting though. It was trying to come on. It was flickering off, flickering back on, and it finally came back on. And I turn around and I look at my buddy and he's still exactly where he was. And he said, dude, what's wrong, man? What happened? I said, something just grabbed me. Something literally just touched me. And I explained to him just what I explained to you. And we left. That was enough for that night. And I don't know, like it was real. It was intense, but I still wanted more. I still needed more validation because there's also part of me that was believing maybe I just spooked myself. So that's why we went back and we went back and we went back. But that third time onward, that's when we started getting actual poltergeist activity because we went there the third time onward and we didn't get anything for like maybe about an hour, if not 2 hours. And we started getting tired, started getting annoyed. So we started to provoke. And that's when the activity started coming. And yeah, it was insane. And then there's two stories that really stand out. The short one is the woman in white. I don't know if you want to hear that one or not.
Liv, is that the woman that's standing behind me?
I don't know.
I don't know either. Because you say that you were touched, and I don't normally get touched by spirits, in the podcast that we did on your channel, there was a woman standing behind me, and she had her hand on my shoulder, and she's telling me about your gifts. Because you were
remember you saying that.
Yeah.
Oh, but she's one of his guides, though. Remember?
No, it's not a spirit guide.
No? Well, we were talking about one of the ladies that looks like that, though, for him.
I know what she looks like. That's not the person that's standing behind me.
You
she's still
talk to the
there.
scary things. I don't talk to
Well,
the
I
scary
didn't know
things.
she was a scary thing. She's a woman.
I thought when you were walking out and something put its hand on your shoulder, I saw a woman.
It's not.
But
Well,
I saw a woman down in the basement, but then I also saw you leaving the property and there was a man that was walking you off the property as well. But then you talked about a woman in the basement, and I was like, this is weird.
Yeah, because I thought this woman was someone that you, went on an investigation with, but I was like, that's weird. That's weird for me to assume that.
Maybe
Obviously,
they were just trying to tell you about your car's extended warranty.
Oh, God. Well, so it freaks me out a little bit that you say that there's a woman in white.
Sorry, continue.
Because they're standing behind me.
Oh, you're fine. No, I can only imagine what you're feeling in. You being able to feel that, see that, and if it is the exact person or entity that I encountered, yeah, that would be even more intense. What a connection.
Well, yeah, she also is explaining that the reason why the experiences that you have are so, I don't know if profound is the right word, is because you have a hard time noticing the difference or you second guess it yourself. So they do something very, very obvious. So if it's a sound, it's usually physical sound because you're going to listen to a physical sound instead of a sound that's happening within your mental space. Or with clairsentience, it's something that's going to happen physically to you. I don't normally have spirits touching me, and it's because that's how you experience your clairs. It's very intense. Because you kind of block it out a little bit.
Oh yeah, no, you're hitting the nail right on the head, and that's exactly how I am, and I've always been that way, and I don't know why. It's just I'm very earthbound, I guess. I have to have some type of evidence to know that I'm not losing my mind and I'm not just second guessing. It might come back to the whole hardcore criticism that the paranormal field can get. People are like, that could be this or that could be that, and it's also the world we live in. There's unfortunately so many different things that people can fabricate with software and technology and animatronics and you name it, so for me to experience something that's very profound, definitive, blunt, apparent, it's important to me because I want to make sure that I'm actually getting what is being sent, perceived, if you will.
Right.
So what was the woman with white before we interrupted you? Sorry.
Oh, you're fine. No, that's rabbit holes, man. I do rabbit holes all the time. It's good. Yeah, the woman in white, this was a completely different time. This was probably almost a year after being touched on the shoulder. The shoulder touching.
Start a journey, not a fad. Kick off your fitness journey with up to $500 off Peloton Bike, Bike Plus, or Tread packages. Choose the package that will take your training to the next level with accessories like our cycling shoes, heart rate band, non-slip grip dumbbells, and more. Join now and you'll see why 92% of households that start the year with Peloton are still active a year later. All access membership separate. Offer ends January 8th, 2023. Excludes Bike, Bike Plus, and Tread Basics. See additional terms at onepeloton.com.
White Castle is offering Sloppy Joe sliders and mac and cheese nibblers for a limited time only. These offerings are the perfect comfort food for the season. Cravers and non-cravers alike will enjoy our 3 Sloppy Joe sliders and mac and cheese nibblers. Nothing says cozy like the Smoky Joe and cheddar cheese with crispy onions, the Spicy Joe with jalapeno cheese and jalapeno crisps, and the Sloppy Joe with the sweet and tangy flavor, and the crispy on the outside, creamy on the inside mac and cheese nibblers. Get the comfort food you crave at your nearest Castle. Limited time only at participating Castles.
I feel like it was a woman. I truly do. I did then, I do now. But I didn't see anything. I just felt it, and that was it. But now we're moving on from 2011. All this was happening in 2011. Let's see, probably until like October. And then 2012 rolls around, and this is when things really start to get intense, because 2011, even though we were going to Central State quite often, it wasn't every week and all the time. That didn't really start until the end of 2011 into early 2012. And that's where a lot of that activity really started to get intense. I believe it was June, July. It was in the summertime, because I remember when the Woman in White experience happened, there was a warm wind. So it was outside. It was in the middle of Central State in the courtyard, and it was fairly warm. And the wind was blowing really, really strong this night. And that's what made the night feel good. And the leaves were moving, and I just remember everything really vivid. And there's 4 of us, including myself. And, you know, we kind of understand Central State. We know the buildings. We know the layout. We've done a lot of research on what could have happened and how patients were treated and alleged, you know, deaths and things of that nature. So we haven't actually investigated the courtyard outside yet at this point. So that's where we go. And as we go out there, we start to communicate, more so silently, I guess. We just try to listen to the environment, even though the wind's kind of loud. And I mentally am talking to the spirits in my mind. I'm trying to use telepathy and talk to them, you know, and I don't really get anything. We sit there, I talk in my head for about maybe 25, 30 minutes. Nothing happens. And then finally something happens, just out of nowhere, probably about 50, 75 feet in front of us in the center of the courtyard. There is a stack of bushes, shrubs on the right-hand side in front of us in our field of view. On the left-hand side in front of the bushes is like maybe one to 3 trees that are just kind of, you know, lined up around each other a little bit. And the shrubs, I found this out later on, underneath the shrubs was actually a concrete foundation. I did not know this at the time. So there was some type of structure there. I don't know if it was like a maintenance shed or like a locker room, because there was basketball courts, football field. Not too sure what they had there, but there was a foundation there. Again, I didn't know this, but where that foundation, where the shrubs were overgrown, a woman in white pops out of nowhere. Literally, it's a woman in a gown, and like a patient gown. She has solid black hair that goes down to her mid-back. She has a face, but no details. You can see the indents of her eyes. You can see her nose. You can see her mouth. Her hands are down to her side. She has no feet. And she's literally levitating from the shrubs to the tree. And she appeared like smoke, like somebody blew out smoke out of their mouth. That's how she appeared. And when she appeared, I went deaf. Everything around me completely slowed down besides her and the trees. Trees still moved. She was there, and she was literally floating like an animatronic at a haunted house, completely non-human-like, but she was moving, didn't look at me. And it felt like minutes, but it was seconds. It felt like it took forever, but she finally gets to the tree, and when she hits the tree, just like she appeared, she evaporated into smoke again. She just kind of dissipated. And when she left, my ears popped, and sound started like whirring back to me, you know, and I could hear things again finally, and I could hear the tree, the leaves actually move instead of just watching them. I could hear my buddies whispering to one another like, oh man, I'm not getting anything. What about you? You know, just everything I couldn't hear, I got that back. It's kind of like I was sucked into another world, I guess, or another dimension. And mind you, this is the only time that I have ever physically seen an apparition with my eyes, with my naked eyes. To this day, other than this little cat figure that I've seen in my new home that I've shared with you prior. I've not actually seen a full-bodied apparition like this. And prior to that, I've never seen one. And I used no equipment. I saw this, and it was just mind-blowing, man. Like, oh my God. And I haven't forgot her, and I still haven't. And I can go into theories about what I think happened to her and why she was there and all that. But that was kind of like one of my biggest explosions of a encounter with the supernatural, and it was just intense. Yeah.
Is that the girl that's behind you? Because the
100%.
woman that touched him in the basement or whatever does not look like that.
Yeah, no, this woman that's behind me, she has dark hair. It's about as long as my hair, so a little bit longer than shoulder length. And she feels like a cold breeze, and she is every time I try to describe
intense.
her. Well, every time I try to describe her, she like corrects me. She's like, "Don't make me sound so awful." But she's like she doesn't want me to use the word stern, but
because that's what I use. She's like, "Don't be Liv." That's why I'm specifically not talking to her, because she's dumb.
you have a hard time talking to women women in white in particular,
because it's a cliche and they know it. I'm kidding.
But yeah, the reason why you weren't able to hear is because you're very clairaudient, and that is one of the, like, I don't know if it's, I get that when I'm blocking information out. It's almost like you have your hand over your ear, or you have water in your ear or something like that. It's like you just lose the ability to hear in one or both ears, and that's usually when I'm blocking a spirit out. So that's why when you were seeing it, you were like overwhelmed by the fact that you were seeing an apparition, so you were subconsciously like blocking that out.
Do you know how she passed? Did she pass from head trauma?
Yes.
That's why also he was hearing that, because that's the sound she heard before she died.
Yeah, the second you said that, my head started
Yeah, I've just been feeling like, you know, in the movies, like the spy movies where they like clap your hands over your ears.
Oh, yeah.
I feel like that, but on the entire right-hand side of my head.
Mm-hmm. I can feel her presence clairsentiently, which is not a usual thing that I get, is very clairsentient information. Because she's making me get like chills throughout my entire body on the right-hand side.
Yeah, she wouldn't be someone that I would skip in the park with.
Yeah, she's a little bit scary.
That's why you talk to her.
But usually women in white are like positive normally. I don't know though.
I think it's just that they usually have a story.
Yeah, they do. They usually have a story.
Mm-hmm. There's some sort of martyr if you're looking at it from a non-mediumship way, but culturally and historically, women in white are usually attributed to being some sort of martyr or die in a tragic or mysterious way. I don't know if you have heard the same sort of consensus, Schuler.
Right. I have, Liv. Yeah, and that's kind of what I thought, especially after and knowing of that research and doing more research into it. With her being in white like that, one thing I thought right off was her being a patient. That's the first vibe that I got. And the way she was dressed, it seemed like a robe, you know, or some type of gown. It didn't seem like she was in a nurse's dress or a lab coat or anything of that nature. It seemed like she was more of a patient, not someone of power, if she was there at Central State. And you know, I don't know any history of a woman passing away. There are stories that have been documented, but, you know, Central State was around from 1848 was when it was legally established. It had its closure in 1994. So it's had a lot of energy pass through, and I'm sure a lot of it was undocumented. But with her, a buddy of mine that I met later in, I believe it was 2014, 2015, really good buddy of mine. He's in love with Central State just like I am, if not obsessed, if that's a better word. And we both discussed her because apparently he's seen her too later on in 2014. And I shared my story with him as we started walking the grounds because we met at Central State. So I truly feel that our paths were aligned for sure for a reason. And he shared his story with me about seeing that same woman in the courtyard. And he walked me over to where he saw her. And this was before I shared all of the detail with him. I just told him that I seen this woman in the courtyard. He brought me over to where he saw her. And it was right there in that same spot, same trees, same brushes. The brushes were kind of dead because it was, late winter time at this point. But that's why I was finally able to see that concrete slab, because the bush was actually dead. And he shared with me, he's like, yeah, dude, check this out. It's like there was some type of foundation here. He's like, I've done a lot of research on the lands, and he's like, I'm not too sure what it could be, but it might have been, a locker room, maintenance shed, something like that. So we kind of collaborated with our thoughts, and what we've kind of speculated on, I guess, is she was a victim of some ungodly actions, and it could have happened in that little shed or around that area, and that's where she was killed and brutalized. And that's the emotions that I got and that he got. I'm not sure if that can be confirmed, but that's the sad emotions that we got with her kind of being locked there is what we think. That's why she was showing herself, maybe trying to share her story of what happened to her.
Yeah, she's telling me that her husband put her there for being like obstinate because she has a very strong will. I feel like the reason he put her there was he claimed that she wouldn't do the womanly duties that she was supposed to, basically dubbing her as a broken woman or a she wants me to use a different term. It's like rogue, like a rogue woman, basically. Is your friend chubby?
No, not this one.
Okay, does he work with somebody that is chubby? I see like a chubbier man, and he has like a beard or a goatee that's a little scruffy and brown hair.
If he does live, I really don't know, because I met a couple of his friends, but I can't say someone that was like chubby. One of his buddies, it was kind of broad, but not chubby. But I didn't get to meet too many of his friends.
Okay, no, that's all right. And she's talking about a weak heart. That's why it's not documented.
Gotcha. Like she had a weak heart?
She wants to say that she was put there because the person that she was married to didn't end up agreeing with her, or she's like, I didn't agree with him, and there's not much that I could do about it. And they kind of pegged her as this woman that was angry and needed to be dealt with. So they used different drugs on her to make her more submissive in her surroundings that led to the weak heart. So you're not going to find her as a death that is like accidental or anything like that, because it was dubbed a weak heart.
Wow, man, that really makes me want to get my hands on some of the documents, see if there's any like heart patients or anything like that. But I mean, there's so many people though, and I'm sure there's so many undocumented too. But it just really kind of makes you want to personalize with these spirits that show themselves to you for whatever reason. You want to help them, but at the time I really didn't know what to do. And there's something I can do now, or that we can do, I'm all game for that. But it just really kind of puts you on a whole nother level of wanting to help people.
Yeah, I don't think there's anything you could do. She's like, you asked for it, so Yeah.
Right. That I did. Yeah, I did. I asked for activity, and she showed herself, man. It was I'm very appreciative.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She used the idea of like when a projector screen can be played through like fog and it looks cooler. That's what she said that she used.
That's why she looks like smoke, because she doesn't look like smoke to me.
Mm-hmm.
Gotcha.
She used that concept.
Yeah, she did too, man. Like it was intense. She looked like, you said, like a projector. It was almost like if I gave her physical features to how she moved, it was as if she was on a string at a haunted house, an animatronic, because her hands were completely down to her sides. She didn't really have like fluid movement. She just kind of evaporated out of nowhere and just kind of moved and then dissipated. It was very bizarre how she moved.
Right. So for our next question, have you ever, what is that I wanted to ask? It kind of just left me.
Like the woman in white evaporating
exactly.
into the trees.
Yeah, infiltrating my thoughts. So one of the questions that I have, is it normally like that when you go on ghost investigations? Because we've only gone on one. Is it usually very active, or is it usually very quiet? How do they like normally go?
Gotcha. Yeah, that's a really good question, Em. Yeah, it depends, I believe, truly on, one, your energy, your intentions. And it also is going to depend on the actual location. I'll start with us as investigators, as people, our own entities. It really matters on your intention. From my experiences, if you go in It's weird. If you go in with hostile, negative energy, you're going to get something for sure, from my experience. Now, whether or not that's going to be good, probably not. And there's a really good chance that you could have things come home with you. And I'm speaking very much on experience. You'll get what you're asking for, but it's, literally like they say, be careful what you wish for, because you'll get something a little bit extra. You can, if you're not protective. And, at the same time, you can go in with, this positive mindset, this good, healthy energy. And as long as you're open and you're intuitive to yourself and the environments and the possibilities that spirits really do exist, that really makes or breaks the whole environment. It really depends on how open, because there's been individuals, that are not quite open. They don't believe in anything, but they do want to go with you on an investigation, but they're expecting to see something pop out like a haunted house attraction. Right. And it just doesn't work that way. I've gone neutrally, where I didn't say anything. I didn't try to interact, and you still get stuff. I think that's more creepy than it is when you go in trying to talk to them, because when you walk through a building or a hallway or even a cemetery and you start to hear things that just happen naturally because you're there at the right time, that really kind of makes me get the chills, because it's like that stuff's real and it's around us even when we're not looking for it. But yeah, you can go in, full headed and, ask for stuff all day, all night, and maybe you won't get anything. I can tell you for sure, it's not like TV where you see something every 3 to 5 minutes. Right. It comes not only, it doesn't just rely on you. It relies on the spirits, because they're very real. They're very conscious, and it depends on their energy. It depends on their feelings, the type of people or the type of things that they are, if they're good or bad, trickster, anything in between. And sometimes it could be even residual. It may not even be an intelligent spirit. It could be something that's on replay.
Right. With what you're talking about, you mentioned that you brought things home and that you had attachments. Would you explain that? Because I have a different perception of it as a psychic medium, and I've tried to have my guides explain what an attachment is. Like, how do you know you have an attachment? Right.
No, that's very fair. So, for example, myself, I really didn't get into the supernatural until 17, and I went looking for it. I didn't really grow up with anything that I believe to be like, sensitivities or abilities or anything like that, really. I mean, I had my imaginary friend, as I've spoken on before, but I haven't had anything that I could really say is like abilities or understandings. It's just I have as normal of a physical life as you could possibly imagine. But when I started getting into the supernatural, I experienced things, but I didn't take anything home with me for the first, year or so. It wasn't until I started to antagonize, provoke, and offer my energy to these alleged entities at these locations. That's when I finally took something home. And it wasn't that I was just talking at them or cursing them. This is actually the other story that I was kind of mentioning that really stands out to me, that made me fall in love with the supernatural. It terrified me and changed my life in the beginning. But I actually, if you want a true visual of this story, I was fortunate enough to work with Eli Roth, a horror director, producer, on one of his newest TV shows that he came out with just last year called Eli Roth's A Ghost Ruined My Life. And I'm actually on episode 3 about this exact story. Truly, truly life-changing. It was in the women's ward. It started in the women's ward, but it eventually led through the tunnel system that connected all the different buildings. And the tunnel system that we took started at the women's ward, where we had gone to for at least almost a year at this point, but we decided to venture on to a new area that we had not been to yet. That was the Bar Treatment Center. That's the surgery ward. So we figured that would probably be the big primo of negative energy, a lot of tragedy, a lot of literal and spiritual bloodstain, And so we decided to go there and kind of check things out. We had also recently done some research that there was a sub-basement underneath the basement that we were in. Fortunately, to this day, I've never found it. My good friend that I was speaking to you about earlier, Nick, really good guy, he was able to find it. By the time that he found it, though, it looked like it had caved in. I know that there had been some demolition work shortly after 1994 and up to 2016, so he couldn't access it by the time that he found it. But there was a sub-basement, and the reason for that is because that's what we were looking for. Because the documentation that we found was that the really bad patients, or patients that were just quoted as like guinea pigs or toys, and just do ungodly things and experiment.
I have a question.
And oh yes, please.
Did they say that they kept like food down there, like the drinks, like beer, but in reality it was people?
That I don't know, Liv. I can't exactly guarantee that there's documentation on that or that I found any, but with them having rec rooms down there, I could see that being utilized. They also had an elevator, a freight elevator that went up and down, so they could take food down there in food trays and things of that nature.
Are you saying that they're using it to cover it up, what they're doing?
Yes.
Yeah.
Because there's a man that's telling me that whatever you're saying is not true and that they just used to keep the drinks down there for the patients and the food.
To kind of cover it up.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Gotcha. So that was kind of their cover story to get away with what they were doing.
Correct. Because he's
okay.
like, don't listen to this man. He doesn't know what he's talking about.
Yeah, because down there is really, like, heavy.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah. Very heavy. And that's the thing, too. Like, there was also... well, I'm trying to think of one of the smart words, but I can't use it right now. Brain fart. So there were a lot of allegations. There we go, about some of the doctors and the nurses practicing in evil rituals, conjuring up negative energy and using some of these patients for that. Or, if somebody gave birth inside of Central State, especially in the earlier days, documentation and record keeping, that's a joke, that people didn't care about that stuff. Even, more so today, it's more difficult to get away with stuff, but there's still easier ways to get away with covering people's deaths up. So, it's just bad. But that's what we were looking for this evening in particular, was that sub-basement. And we wanted to find these rooms that these doctors and nurses took these patients to, and we wanted to share their stories. We wanted to provide some type of closure, and ultimately at this time, we wanted to find evidence of the supernatural. So as we're traveling through this tunnel from the women's ward to the surgery ward, we get distracted. We don't find the sub-basement, but we do find a crawl space that's like 5 feet up above the ground from this tunnel. And we're like, you know what? We're already here. We're almost to the Bar Treatment Center. Why not? Let's jump in the crawl space. Maybe we'll find a way down. Who knows? Maybe this is the crawl space that they took people into. I don't know. It would have been really difficult to get people up there, to be honest with you. I mean, maybe if they were sedated and they had somebody jump up there and they lifted them, it's really a lot of work, but some people are willing to do some crazy stuff, I guess, to get their fix. But we went up there, and the crawl space is segmented in different portions. So there's the first part, that the entrance of the crawl space is one really long, like, corridor. You have to crouch. It's probably no more than 2.5, 3 feet tall, pipes all over the place. And then there's this little crawl space door. It looked just like the one that we entered in, but it's inside the crawl space and it's built into a wall. So it's literally dividing another room of the crawl space. It's not all open. And these corridors that we're in, they're probably a good 200 feet long. Like it went down really, really far. But we went in a couple of the corridors. So we went through the entrance, we entered in the first little doorway, and we entered into a second doorway. So we're like 2 rooms deep in this crawl space at this point. Don't know why we decided to go that deep in, but we did. And the 3 of us, this night there were 3 of us, and we start to talk, we start to do our thing, and 30, 45 minutes in, nothing happens. So we just listen after a while. Still nothing happens. And probably past 1 a.m. at this point. We'd usually stay till 4 to 6 in the morning. And I decide to start to provoke a little bit with my buddy that's next to me. We're kind of in a line, the 3 of us, and we have our backs up against the wall. And we start to provoke, demand that they come out. We offer our energy like the naive kids that we were. Nothing bad has happened up to this point. We've had some creepy stuff. We've had stuff thrown at us, but nothing severe enough, like, being scratched or bitten or pushed or anything following us home. Well, to this point of us provoking, we start to have things being thrown. And we're like, okay, what was that? I actually have an EVP of my reaction to this very first object being thrown. It was thrown towards me. It was directed right towards me, and it hit me on my foot. And we didn't have any night vision or any video cameras at this time, but I was running EVP, and I can play that for you. And I just let out this blood curdling scream. It was it's embarrassing, but it's funny at the same time. But it was, you can hear, I guess the good thing about it is you can hear the reality of my voice. You can hear that genuine terror, because when this rock was thrown at me, it was directly in front of me. And in front of me was an opening where there should have been another door, but it wasn't. It was just an opening, and it's probably a good 75 feet deep into another crawl space room that we didn't go into. And I had my flashlight right there on that little opening, and I saw the rock literally levitate up off the ground by itself, by nothing, absolutely nothing, and it rainbow shot. It was like a little rainbow arch, and it landed perfectly on my foot. And as soon as it tapped me, that's when I started screaming. And oh my God, it was so crazy. But Liv, what really was my worst decision that night was that rock that I got hit with. I was so fascinated. I was so in love with the experience of what just happened to me.
Took it home?
I picked it up and I took it home with me. I did.
Jesus Christ.
That is what started what I consider to be my attachment, my parasite, because I welcomed it. Whatever attachment or energy it had contained in that rock, I allowed it to follow me wherever I took the rock. And after I took the rock, the EVP, I keep rolling EVP, and you can hear, I thank it, and I'm like, I'm sorry, and that we were being like that, but we're just wanting some activity. Well, whatever this thing was or whoever, it didn't care about sorries or thank yous. It continued to throw rocks at us. And prior to this, I should kind of share this to make sure the details are more fine. The things that we had thrown prior wasn't necessarily like violent, and it wasn't all the time. It's kind of like if maybe we kick something, and the whole like objects being thrown at us and hitting us or going around us, it wasn't until after this. So I just wanted to make sure I got my timeline straight here. But this was like the first real interaction that we had of intelligent throwing of objects by air. And this thing it continued to throw object at us. And these objects, they were hitting the concrete wall behind us. They were hitting the pipes around us. And my buddies are panicking at this point. I'm like, okay, let's go. Let's get out of here. And so that's what we did. We army crawled our way out, because as we were leaving, these rocks were literally hitting us in the back, hitting the pipes overhead. They weren't stopping. They got more violent and consistent. And we finally made our way out of the crawl space, and we jumped down. And luckily, there's an exit to our right. It was going up the bar treatment center, but the thing is, we'd never been in this building before, and we didn't know our way around, and we didn't know what to do. But we knew there was an exit, so that's where we went. And as we were making our way up, we still had those rocks being thrown at us, and that's really what validated me, because in the back of my mind, I was like, maybe it's my buddies throwing the rocks back in the crawl space. I don't know how they could have done it, but I thought logically, maybe they were just messing with me. We've been here for a couple hours, whatever. But what really hit me that it wasn't my friends was when both of them were in front of me running up the stairs, and I was in the ass back, and I was getting hit with rocks. And, not to be disrespectful to this populace, but there was no homeless people. There were no drug addicts. There were no gang members. There were no animals. There were no other teenagers. Yeah, there was nothing logically there that could have been doing that. And this isn't, some rigged up animatronic haunted house where there's like little Indiana Jones darts coming out at you. This is a dilapidated, condemned building. Like, what's going on right now? And as we're going up the stairs, I'm like, holy shit, this is actually happening. There's something down there, invisible but alive, and it's throwing things at us because we interacted with it and we pissed it off. So we get up to the the ground floor of this bar treatment, the surgery ward. Come to find out, the exit is completely chained up with chains. It's completely locked. We cannot get out. And the windows are the type of windows that have like, the little chain mesh in there and all that good stuff. And we decided to not go throughout the bar treatment center because we didn't know the schematic. We didn't know where to go, and we didn't want to get lost in this building that we're not familiar with something that's alive and invisible, and it's clearly attacking us. So we made a very hard, very difficult decision to go back down into the basement, because at least we knew how to navigate. We knew that once we got back down to the tunnel, all we had to do was take a long straight shot down the tunnel, and that would take us back to the women's ward. And we knew how to navigate through the women's ward by this point. But it was really difficult to go back down. It's so funny. It's just like a movie, because we walked really slow to the top of the stairs that led back down to the basement. We just kind of peeked around with our flashlights. And we're just like, oh my God, we don't want to do this, but we know we have to if we want to leave. And so we did. And we slowly went down. Nothing was happening. No rocks. This thing just stopped. But in the back of my mind, I knew it was screwing with us. I knew it still knew that we were there. I knew that it was watching us. I've seen too many movies. I know how these little things do their thing, And we get up to the crawl space and nothing happens. Crawl space is still open the way we left it. And we just kind of flash our lights in there a little bit, It's like, okay, nothing. And we start to walk away from it. As soon as we start walking away from it, rocks start flying out of the crawl space again. We just looked in there. There's nobody in there. There's no animals. We just looked in there and rocks are being thrown out of the crawl space. So that was enough to freak us out. I'm getting cold chills telling the story again because I'm picturing everything that I went through that night. And it's just, I can't believe it. And it's been so long too. But we started running and I mean, we were gone. And as we were running, whatever this thing was, it didn't have to try to keep up with us. It stayed right there with us, kept throwing rocks at us. It was throwing glass shards. It even got to the point where there's a section in the tunnel that is divided by a concrete wall, and it has a metal door that separates the bar tunnel to the women's ward tunnel. Well, when I went to go grab this door and open it, because obviously it's a heavy door, it stays closed. Luckily, it didn't lock, but I go to open it. But as I go to grab the doorknob, I get hit on my right hand wrist with this huge construction bolt. Huge. It's a type of bolt that keeps down like the pillars for the foundation. And actually to this day, Liv, I have a little red scar on my wrist from that actual bolt. And it hit me so hard. And we're running EVP. You can hear me. You can hear my reaction. My buddy that was behind me, he almost got hit in the head with it. He felt the wind past him. It was aimed to me. Hit me. He picked it up and put it in his pocket. We're just picking stuff up. It's like souvenirs. Yay. Didn't have to pay for it. But I ripped the door open after I get hit with this bolt. And mind you, too, the next day I had this huge black bruise on my on my wrist. It was the size of a silver dollar. It was insane. But anyway, I didn't care about that at the time. My adrenaline was pumping, so I didn't really feel the pain. It was just more that I felt the pressure and it shocked me. But we ran through the door. I shut the door behind us, and my buddies looked back at me like, should we keep going or should we take a break? And I'm like, okay, let's take a break for a minute. There's a door between us. Maybe it has a lining of salt and silver in it. I don't know. Maybe we'll keep it back. But I don't know. Maybe it was the desperation of hoping this thing would stop. We sat there, we stood there for like literally 10 seconds just to catch our breath. I'm just like, we have to keep going, guys. I don't know what this is. I don't know what's happening, but this isn't normal. We just need to get out. So we started running. And of course, I mean, how silly of us to think that a door would stop something invisible. As soon as we start running, things start getting thrown at us again. The door didn't open. It didn't need to go through the door. It went through the door, but didn't need to open it. And things were being thrown at us again. And we finally made our way through the second boiler room, which led to the bar treatment center. And then as we made our way up through the boiler room, out into the underground hallway of the women's ward, we made our way to the exit, up to the staircase of the women's ward. But as we were going that way, at this point, there were like 2x4s, wooden 2x4s being knocked off the wall that were propped up on the wall. We were still being hit by bolts and glass shards and all this stuff. Like, this thing followed us from the surgery ward to the women's ward. We made our way up the staircase to the lobby of the women's ward, and then we went out the side entrance, which was our primary entrance that we usually would take, and still running EVP. As we literally leave the exit, the actual like doorway of the women's ward, that particular moment on the EVP, I don't know how you are about curse words, but there was something in a very demonic, nasty, grisly voice that said, F these guys. You can hear it clear as day. You can hear it clear as day. F these guys. And you can hear me breathing, so it's clearly not me. And you can hear my buddies like far away in the audio, but they're like ahead of me. But I don't know how to really explain it other than it's just audio directions. It sounds like the sound came from behind me, and it's like, F these guys. And as we made our way out into the soccer field that was in front of the actual premises of Central State, everything stopped. What's really kind of creepy, scary, but cool, mixed all together, I can't make up a word, but I'm trying to, is when we got into onto the soccer field, we turned around one more time to look at the exit just to make sure there wasn't somebody there screwing with us, homeless, somebody that didn't want us there. There was no one there. We flooded our lights on the doorway, but there were still rocks being thrown outside of that damn building. They were still coming out of the building, man. And
persistent.
but whatever it was like it was tethered because it didn't follow us onto the soccer court. Mm-hmm. It did not follow us. But I say that it seemed like it was tethered because it stopped there for that night. But after that night, my two buddies and we started to experience things that we had never experienced before. And I can go into greater detail, but if you have any questions just about all of that, I know that was a lot. I'm sorry for being a chatty Cathy, but that's just a very sentimental story. And I've said it so many times, but I mean, man, it really left a mark on me, But yeah, if you have any questions, I'll stop there first because it continues in our homes.
Sure. So who's throwing rocks, Liv? Oh, she wrote down a whole bunch of stuff.
Oh, I was just narrating your story with the things that I saw.
Got you.
Because that's what happens when people tell stories.
Yeah, I know.
Nice.
I feel like it was younger children. When you were in the crawl space, I see like a boy. I want to say he's like 10, 11. And he has a friend, but his friend doesn't talk very much. I don't know if he is, I don't know, what's the word?
Oh, mentally disabled? Is
that
what you're asking?
Well, they use the word slow, but they're kids. So he's like, my friend doesn't talk a lot. He's just slow.
Oh, okay.
So like he's mute?
No, he just isn't as articulate with his brain functioning. So,
gotcha.
But there was a kid, and then there was an older woman. She's like in her 40s, early to mid 40s. And when you were talking, they made me write a whole bunch of things down about what they were talking about. But I feel like the boys were the ones that were throwing rocks at you first. And
gotcha.
When you started provoking them, the woman stepped forward and she said, leave them be. And then it turned into them moving you guys towards the surgery ward. And they said something about Big Harry. Is that what I wrote? Harry? I think I did. I think
you wrote Henry or Harry. I don't remember.
I thought it said Henry too.
Oh, okay.
But I swear to God, I was hearing
You definitely
Harry.
wrote Harry too, so I don't know what I was.
Oh no, I think it's Henry because
I'm
really
Henry
shitty
too.
with names, and they're probably just like, I'm gonna use M.
Yeah, because I literally read that. That's clearly says Harry and thought it said Henry, so it's 100% that.
So I think there was another guy that worked there, and his name was Henry, but he's like this big guy. He kind of makes me think about Lurch, who was this person that we kind of talked to, or entity in a different video.
Zach Bagans Museum.
Yeah, they're like, push him towards Big Henry. And I think Big Henry worked in the surgery ward, kind of as just like a helper, because he might have also been a little mentally disabled as well. But he was helpful, if that makes any sense, because he could take directions. And I feel like once you guys started to move back towards the door when the bolt fell on your hand, because I saw like a whole bunch of people behind you, which is when you said you felt like more rocks were following you. The bolt that fell on your hand, I think, is the scary man that was in the surgery ward.
Gotcha. Okay.
Because he kind of was like, screw this noise, and was kind of trying to be like the end-all be-all for the situation, which is why it was more obnoxious than everyone else's. And then once you finally got out, there was like this big guy who was not there before that is the one that spoke into your EVP. Kind of like a bouncer-esque type body build.
Gotcha. Was it human?
Yes.
Form or okay.
Yeah, no, all of them are people. I didn't get any like weird entity malignant type things. And I was wondering, when you took the rock home, did you experience things? Because I feel like this Big Henry guy was attached to the rock, for lack of a better words, but whatever was bothering you wasn't him. He's the one that was trying to make the weird entity that ended up manifesting itself from the rock. And it's not necessarily from the rock, it's from the scariness that you felt from taking the rock home that kind of made it be weird, if there was like something like that.
Opened yourself up to it because you had it, so it gave you the, like, I don't know if it's context, if the right word, like the idea that could happen. So they kind of manipulated that idea. So I don't know if something happened to you I think you were about to get into that part.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and that's the thing too, is when we went home, the three of us, we did have our own type of encounters because all three of us did take something home from Central State at this point. And for me, it was the rock. And I did have some papers that I had prior, but I didn't have any experiences. It was only after I took this rock that I was hit with by whatever invisible force was before me. And then my two buddies, one of them took the bolt that I got hit with home. And the other guy, I can't remember exactly what he took. I knew he had papers, and he may have had, he had like medicine jars that he had found, stuff like that. So one of them, the one with the medicine jars.
Sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry.
They're kind of telling me, so a lot of witches, they will go to cemeteries to like get things for their spells. However, they believe that you have to ask permission before taking things from the spirits. And they're making me remember that. And it's interesting that each of you took something and each of you had an experience, because I feel like you may have not been allowed to take those things.
Right. No, you're right on it there, and that's exactly what I'm thinking too. At that point, I had no idea of what to think, and I'll get into that of what I went through that kind of validated my understanding finally in the end. But yeah, I'm right on board with you on that, because we didn't ask permission. We just more so took, and it's just like with us, they can't necessarily do something to us without permissions. But we took something of theirs that they had interacted with us for souvenir because we were excited and it was great. But my buddy with the medicine bottle and papers, he had an issue with night terrors and like vivid night terrors of something attacking him. He heard scratching on his bedroom walls, like there was something in there trying to get out to him. And the ceiling fan in his parents' room had fallen off, but when it came down off the hinges, it came at an angle and hit his mom in the head. That's what happened to him. That's pretty much all the experiences that he had happen, and all of this happened in a month's time. The other guy, he didn't have as much happen to him. I'm not too sure why. Maybe it's because he didn't provoke as much. Maybe he didn't believe as much, but he had some nightmares, night terrors. But from what he shared with us, that was really the extent of his encounters. But for me, I feel like maybe because I was the leader of the group, I provoked more. I was more in it, I guess, to get that evidence. Maybe they attacked me a little more severely. I don't know. But I know whenever I went home a couple of days on, after this encounter, I started to have night terrors myself, and they were very, very vivid. There was this really tall, dark black mass. It didn't really have any detail that I can share, but it was a black mass when I could physically see it in my night terrors, but then at times it would go invisible, and it would just be invisible like force. But what it would do is it would grab me by my ankle and drag me out of my bed, and my night terrors were in my room. In my home. It was like a parallel universe. It's almost as if it was my spirit that was getting its ass kicked, and my body was just back there sleeping. But this thing would drag me out of my bed, and it would throw me up against the walls and the ceiling. It would drag me out to the hallway and hit me up against the ceilings out there, and then it would let go of me. And I would get up and just kind of look at it, and it would stare at me. And then for whatever reason, I looked out the side window of the hallway in my old home at the time. And when I looked outside, everything was white. I feel like I could see the grass, but everything else was just completely white. It was like a blank canvas. And once I looked out there, that's when I would wake up finally from my night terrors, and I would be in a sweat. My heart would be racing, and I'd get up out of my bed and be like, holy crap, did that just happen? One night that this happened, it only happened once, but I'd woken up from this and my bed was shaking. Literally like from The Exorcist, the old 70s flick. And my bed was literally shaking. And being in the state of Indiana, I know that there has been some accounts for like minor earthquakes or whatever. So, I think logically, I'm just trying to make sure I'm not going off something. And there was no accounts, no news channels about any explosions or earthquakes or anything, natural or logical. But at this time of this incident, the bed was shaking. But as soon as I woke up and I jumped out of my bed as this was going on out of a panic, it literally just stopped. It just stopped. And I flicked the light on. I looked underneath my bed to make sure none of my cats were underneath there. I'm an only child, so I didn't have any siblings. I didn't have any friends staying the night. My parents aren't the type to pull pranks on me like this. It's just an old wooden frame bed, and there's nothing there. And that happened. So that was pretty terrifying. And then later on, this only happened once, but I had gotten scratched in the shower. It was a little scratch, but it was 3 little marks on the back, in the middle of my back, where I can't really get my hand to do a perfect scratch. I was, just washing up like normal, without soap at this point, and my back started to burn. And I'm just like, what the hell, So I'm just like, okay, whatever. I finished my due and got out, got cleaned up and everything, and put on some clothes. And I asked my dad to take a look at my back for me, and he looked. He said, "Sure enough, son, you have scratches on your back." And he didn't really know what to take of it, and I didn't either at the time. But I had him take a picture, and I got pictures of that, and that was interesting. And let's see what started happening towards the end. This is like week 3, week 4, towards the end, before we finally figure things out. I'm sorry that this I guess you can say symptom, rather, for lack of better words. This started probably the second week and a half into 2 weeks. So while everything else was happening, this started to occur about the second weekend. I started feeling like I needed to throw up every single day. Every single day, from the time that I woke up to the time I went to sleep. The only time I didn't feel like vomiting was when I was asleep. And I never did throw up, but I felt like it every single day. It was horrible. It was so bad that I actually had my mom take me to my doctor twice to see if there was something wrong with me, a bug or maybe some type of intestinal issue, gastro, I don't know, help me out. And he pressed on me. He did what he could. I didn't go to a specialist, but he did say, he's like, Schuler, there's really nothing that I can say that's wrong with you. Chemically, physically, you seem healthy. So the only thing I can really diagnose you with, if anything, is, that you have anxiety. Is there a lot going on? I'm like, no, I'm going through testing, but I'm at school, I'm no stressed out than I ever have been before. So, I don't know what to think. And in the second visit, I feel kind of bad, but I kind of got a little irritated with him that he wasn't giving me something to fix this. Like, give me something, give me morphine, put me to sleep. I don't know. But he's like, Schuler, I've been in this practice for years. And I'm like, I get that, doctor. I don't mean any disrespect, but I'm like, I know what I feel. And I know that mentally I'm okay. But I feel like I need to throw up every single day, and I don't know what to do. And so I go home after that. I feel defeated, and me and my mom are talking. And my mom, she's like, you know what? She started giving me ideas. She's like, you need to stop doing that paranormal stuff. She's like, because she's into the spirituality thing, and she's more old school, where you're not supposed to mess with it. You're just supposed to go to church and all that. She's become more open-minded now, but at that time, she was kind of telling me that to be careful, and that's when a light bulb went off. I'm like, you're probably right. That's exactly what it is. I'm a paranormal investigator. I've been screwing with stuff. I brought stuff home. This is literally a 101. Why did I not think about this before? And then mind you both, too, other things that happened both during the day and the nighttime, I had monster cans that I used to collect. And these cans would be flicked and popped late at night when I was trying to go to sleep. Literally, like someone took their middle finger and was flicking them. And I would tell whatever it was to leave me the hell alone. I'm trying to go to sleep. And then it would stop, but it would continue to do it nightly. And there was one morning that I was going to school. This is like 9 a.m. This is like 8:45, 9 in the morning. One of my monster cans literally launched up in the air right in front of my face and floated back down and landed perfectly where it was sitting at before it got launched up in the air. That was insane.
Yeah, he's like, you see this? This is the early, late 2000s. This is the late, mid 2000s. What are you doing collecting monster cans? You think you're that scene? What are you doing?
Oh my God.
Making a necklace out of the tops. You know what I'm saying? You were a cool kid, like one of the cool emo kids, if you had a necklace made of the different rainbow ones. Yeah.
Wow.
Oh yeah. I remember those.
Duct tape wallets.
Oh yeah, kids made a fortune off those back in the day, man.
Oh, for sure.
Selling gum illegally.
Illegally?
Pay $1 for a strip of gum.
Oh yeah, man.
Sorry.
Yeah, when you're on the inside, $1 went a long way for that one piece, you know.
Mm-hmm. They're
so the not meant to be sold separately.
Tasted like, what was it, like key lime pie?
Mm-hmm.
Remember those ones?
Oh yeah. The layers.
5 gum. You were cool if you had 5 gum.
No. What?
I'm sorry. No. I didn't go to private school where 5 gum was not cool.
Wow.
Oh my God. Oh man, yeah, it was crazy. But along with those monster cans popping to kind of finally put it into this story, what me and my buddies did, because we hadn't been back to Central State for that time period. We actually kind of stopped investigating for a while. But I finally got together with everyone, made some calls, and I'm like, I think I know what we need to do to stop this stuff. You've been sharing this with me. This is what's been happening. I've been experiencing this. Telling these things to stop hasn't done it. At this point, I wasn't really close to God or, a higher power spiritual type of thing, but I was starting to become very open to it. But we finally got together about after a month of this type of stuff happening. And we went back to Central State, went down to the women's ward, and we took all of the souvenirs, all of the objects that we had ever collected, even before we started having activity. We just didn't want to mess with it anymore. And we laid it in the first boiler room of the women's ward. We didn't even care about taking it to the exact spots.
Right.
We laid everything there. We said, we don't want this anymore. We're sorry. We apologize. We apologize for being negative and provoking. I said a prayer to God. That's really kind of what opened up the door to me and him. And we just really laid everything out. We laid barriers. We used our free will. We prayed. We put everything back. And on everything that I believe in, after that night, literally that night into the next day, my whole vomit feeling symptoms that I had, it stopped. It went away. And so did everything else. The night terrors, the shaking of the bed, the popping cans. One of those cans, by the way, had, the monster can logo has the 3 slashes, like the Mock of the Trinity and all that. Well, one of those cans that was being flung, the paint of those 3 slashes was actually carved, like somebody had taken a knife, the edge of a knife, and slashed the paint off of the can. That was creepy. Yeah. Oh, maybe you guys can help me with this, because this has been a mystery. I had a Kleenex box on my nightstand. One day randomly, while all this crap was going on, I had random initials carved in to this box, and it was very crude, like somebody had taken a knife or their fingernails. I don't know what they stand for. It was VWF or VFW. It was one of those two. I believe it was VFW. It was carved into my Kleenex box. I have no idea why or what that meant, but that was another random thing that happened.
Was it a V or a J?
It was a V, for sure. Yeah, I don't know.
I'm sorry. I heard, are you sure it's a V? Because they just showed me how bad I am at writing and how I had to make my R's a specific way so that I knew that they were R's, because they would look like literally every letter possible except for an R. Mm. So if that helps you out.
I don't know. I got J first, but I don't know the other ones.
I mean, they were pretty crude, but I mean, I don't know. Maybe it was a message. Maybe their initials. Maybe they were trying to tell me something. But of course, I wasn't really open to that point. But I do know finally everything had ended after that. But those were a couple of oddities that kind of stayed behind after everything that I wanted to share with you both.
Well, that's absolutely crazy. I would have pooped your pants.
Oh yeah. It was.
Listen here, demon. Obviously, you don't understand sleepover rules. We're going to have to reestablish what a tickle fight is, and it doesn't start with you throwing me around my room ethereally, because that ain't cool. Here's a pillow. Get your shit together.
God.
Right.
Also, bathroom rules. When I'm in the bathroom, you got to stay outside. Go ask mom for an Eggo.
Right. I would hope it would go by the rules too, though, Liv. Let me tell you.
Exactly.
Man, because
it has nothing to do with you bringing a rock home. It's that you didn't establish ground rules with said demon. That's it.
With said demon.
Said demon.
God.
Sorry.
Should ask for its name. No, that's all right. I should ask for the name, because when you're talking to a demon, you command it. It has to answer you. So the story goes.
Mm.
Yeah, people believe that if you know a demon's name, you have power over them.
I'm going to call him Jimothy.
Jimothy.
Yeah. You don't know if it's a V or a J. I'm going to say Jimothy.
Hey, that's good. That's smart.
So the last question that I have is about equipment. So we have a Patreon page, and we have reached a specific goal where we need to buy another piece of equipment. What is the coolest piece of equipment that you have or want?
Oh, man. The coolest piece? I don't know if we could really categorize the coolest, but I can try to meet you in the middle, though, Em, and go with what I believe to be the most effective. Because I used to think that you had to have the best type of technology, the best equipment to get the best results. Obviously, that's not the case. It's what really should go into your quest of what type of equipment to get or to get next is what type of evidence do you want? Do you want more audible type of evidence? Do you want still photography where you can blow things up and really get into the pixels and the detail of what you captured, after you take like a strand of 5 pictures in the same spot? Or are you looking more so for like video type of evidence of something being there on moving picture with audio with you and it dissipates, or nowadays, they're getting more techie out there that there's digital evidence where people are using like the SLS system. It's like the Xbox 360 Connect and it's motion sensors and stuff like that. There's some really cool stuff out there and there's technology out there that I know they're releasing that I'm not even all that familiar with. I'm pretty old school. I'm like Ghost Hunter, Ghost Buster from the 90s to maybe up to 2015. That's where I stopped. But if I had to share what I think you both should try to work with, it would be night vision cameras. And I would try to go with the purple filter, which I'm sure they have a more professional name, but not the black and white, not the green, but the purple, because that spectrum, it just seems more definitive and it covers further range. And I think you would get better evidence in the sense of like real life time. And of course, if you want to do lives too, if you could set up your camera to like a live stream, that would be good for your audience too. Maybe they see something that you didn't and you have that full spectrum night vision. I feel like that would really be the best thing, to be honest.
Yeah, that's really cool because we're going to do a poll for them and list off different things that they can choose from that will get next as one of their like things that they can do for Patreon. But the night vision camera is a good idea.
I vote for the night vision camera, one, because purple's your favorite color, and two, I need to be able to see the pizza while I'm eating it. And I also
have a thing for cameras, so...
I want to do the SLS thingy, because I think that's the one that makes it look like stick figures, right?
Oh. Yes, that's it.
Well, when we go to castles, I need to be able to see the people on the camera that I'm waltzing with.
That you're actually seeing as a psychic medium.
Yes, but it's going to be me with tap dancing shoes doing like the funky chicken, and you're going to have to see the outline of the stick figure doing the funky chicken with me. I'm going to teach some Victorian people how to do the sprinkler.
Literally hilarious.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my God. That's great.
And we would totally get a spirit to do that too.
100%.
Just for the sole fact that it's hilarious.
Phoebe would do it. 100% she would do it.
Phoebe's one of the souls that were at the graveyard.
Oh, man. Well, at least they're positive, though. You don't have to worry about something thrown at you against your spiritual walls or anything.
Oh, no. Phoebe's hilarious. She was goading when we got to the cemetery for our paranormal investigation. She's like, I'm going to sing. And I was like, Phoebe, one, I'm not going to sing for you. That's not cool. We don't do that here. I'm not a good singer. Number two, how do you think you're going to sing? I don't think we have EVP thing or anything. So I don't understand why you're singing. And she was like, don't test me. And then I didn't know, but Em had her little, what is it? Polter?
It's a polter tune. It's a motion to censor music box. So she was literally singing to the music of the music box.
Yes.
That's cool.
Yeah. Getting goaded by Phoebe. Also, she kept showing me Phoebe from Friends, and I was like, okay, is this just my head playing these movies, or this has to be my ego, right? Because I've watched Friends. And then she kept showing me Chandler from Friends, and I was like, that is so silly. I don't understand. This has to be my own dumb brain. Because I was like, Phoebe and Chandler aren't even like a thing. Like, Chandler, I don't think, has a girlfriend during the show. So, like, why are you showing me Phoebe and Chandler? I didn't realize this the first time, but when we went there, after she had already spanked me on telling me that she was going to sing, and then Em had a freaking polter tune. She's like, this is music. Suck it. I look at her tombstone, and it says her first name is Phoebe, and her last name was Chandler.
What?
Dude, it was crazy.
What?
Phoebe would do
That's a mind blow.
Mm-hmm. She would.
She would. She'd do it better than me, too. She doesn't have legs now, technically.
Oh, my God. Oh my God, that's great. That is so cool. Especially if you get that on SLS. Oh man.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it'd be really funny.
I'll do it. Don't tempt me. We already told you.
You gotta get one first.
The terms are stuffed crust pizza and juice boxes that taste like the color blue.
Jesus.
I mean, if he wants
Like
to
those
join in
little-
and do the funky chicken, that's fine too. We'll do a whole line. It'll be like the YMCA thing, you know, when the one guy has all of the other people on the stick behind him, you know?
No.
What?
You got any more questions?
No, I'm excited. Thank you so much for being on our podcast, Schuler.
Absolutely. And I thank you both for having me on, by all means. And, you know, the more that you both get into the whole paranormal investigation stuff, let me know how it goes. You know, let me know if you have questions or if you have any evidence, you know, you want to share. I'm always open to seeing that cool stuff and knowing where you're going too.
Yeah, we'll have to come visit you in Florida and go
yes.
to St. Augustine. Is that what it was?
That's it.
Oh,
St. Augustine.
Meet the Gordon's Fisherman in the lighthouse.
Yeah, get ready for that collab.
Oh, yeah.
So first, do you want to say where the best place to reach you, all your socials?
Sure. Yeah, no, that'd be really great. Yeah, if anyone wants to reach out, you know, if you're in Florida or even if you're, you know, throughout anywhere else in the world, you can simply go to Google and type in P.I.O.T Paranormal. That's my paranormal team's name. And whenever you type that in, you should be able to find all the different outlets that we're connected to: Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. We have our own website. Of course, we have our own audio show as well, the Para Connection. So if you have stories or if you just want to take a listen, by all means, reach out and we'll be more than happy to speak with you. It's always good talking about the not so normal.
I have
Yep.
a friend and her name's Abby. We used to call her Abby Normal.
Oh, God. And we'll make sure to put all of their information in our show notes so you can go watch our collab on his channel as well.
Awesome. Yeah, that sounds good. Yeah, collaborations are always fun, especially when it comes to discussing the supernatural and finding evidence.
You want to say the oath with us?
Or are you going to
Oh,
shout
you
out
wanna
our
say-
patrons?
Oh, do you want to sit through while we shout out our patrons? Or do you want us to leave you and then do that? There's a lot.
Oh, I can totally stay for whatever you guys are doing. That's
It
cool.
won't take that long.
So thank you to all of our patrons that make this possible. Katie, Melissa, Twilina, Maddie, Ray, Kelsey, Sierra, Shade Comet, Michelle, Taylor, Charlene, Emma, Michelle, Hannah, Shelly, Ray, Putita, Jeanette, Shawnisha, Casey, Amanda, Simon, Jonathan, Buzzy B, Jessica, Megan, Stephanie, Cynthia, Erin, Jaleesa, Mel Bendel, Caroline, Cynthia, Stuart, Taylor, Alexis, B. Russell Sprout, Amy, Noelle, Isi, Francesca, Moonlight, Jessica, Jada, Felicia, Destiny, Amy, P. Mandarin, Ziggy, Living Susie, Noelle, Jocelyn, Leanna, Kate, Leah, Nancy, Chloe, Astral Heart, Jen B, Cindy, Joanna, Lily, Anthony, Elizani, Trinity, Kara, Kimberly, Delilah, Judy, Hazuki, Byron, Ilse, Chloe, Lena, Rob, Jennifer, Metric, Nancy, Christine, Astral Walker, JT, Savannah, Ellie, JD, Sarah, Todd, Erica the Wildflower Child, Mia, Isabel, Jeremy's Random Life, Alex, Amanda, Azael, Bethann, Maria, Haley, Idhara, Faith, Alex, Caitlin, Sasuke Magician, Lori, Mercedes, Christine, Terry, Christina, Sky, Marie, Sheba, Elise, Stephanie, Jay, Kiana, Tiger Lily, Chloe, Natalia, Michelle, Joshua, Miranda, Veronica, Parker, Jennifer, Brian, Lauren, Shun, Talia, Brianna, Salvador, Hannah, Alexis, Aquarius, Natasha, Izzy, Kat, Sydney, Kate, Ashley, Sharon, Melissa, Raggle Maggie, Tuesday, Sarah, Cole, Mama Llama, Danielle, Susie, Lisa, Charlotte, Allie, Leslie, Danielle, Jason, Kyla, Practical Sapphic, Samantha, Janice, Angelina, Titus, Emily, Justine, Kathy, Ashley, Veronica, Gibby, TMQ927, Alexi, Petra, Sinji, Liam, Jay, Pamela, Lucas the Spider Fanatic, Jasmine, Emily, Keely, Lacey, Jintair, Lanita, Kara, Sandrine, Kiera, Jennifer, Rena, Samantha, Clarissa, Brittany, Miss Alice, Nelson, Sarah, Ashley, Sarah, Angie, Julie, Synth, Hannah, Ryan, Amy, Tasha, V, JCLO, Leslie, Shelley, Donnelly, Jasmine, Julie, Brittany, Paige, Marin, Christina, Christopher, Connor, Alicia, Vanna, Amber, Sitley, Courtney, Rita, Abril, Aki, Sergio, Asteria, Brandy, Gaymeyer, Brooke, Lee, Ashley, Dallas, Sarah, Elisa, Gannon, Veronica, Chris, Emily, Meredith, Lindsay, Beth, Ashley, Annalie, Tara, Brandy, Marcy, Rosora, Megan, Faith, Jessica, Yasmin, Glow, Amba, Brooke, Ellie, Flavende, Leanne, Ocorona, Liliana, Anya, Abby, Sarah, April, Cassie, Joanne, Helen, Natalie, Alec, Sarah, Amanda, Tuna, Izzy, Alexa, Gokatsi, Sophia, Bria, Katie, Bees, Brittany, Kendall, Shandy, Riley, Riker, Jay, Lucretia, Kristen, Kima, Samantha, Erica, Ian, Vanessa, McKenna, Shannon, Cindy, Mev, Trinity, Cass, Violet, Peyton, Mac, Jenny, Laurel, Bradley, Sandy, Naz, Sherry, Katie, Charles, Flo, Abby, and Malake. Oh, this was fun. I appreciate it. It was a good time.
Yeah, we really appreciate you coming on our show and listening to us tell you about weird ghost things.
Absolutely, guys. Yeah, and I thank you both for having me on. It's always great speaking, with like-minded, open-minded people. And I enjoyed the end part here, too. It's like you two were playing a really hardcore game of Uno, trying to get that last card really quick.
Oh, yeah. Liv can't see very well, so
That's
it's
why
really close to her face, and it's moving, and I'm like, oh, God.
It's also hilarious why I'm clairvoyant, because I'm blind as a possum.
Oh, my God.
Dude, I got glasses thicker than Coke bottles.
Oh, no.
And stop a speeding bullet. I'll be like Teddy Roosevelt, but instead of like stopping a bullet with like my what is it? The little thingy, the thing that you write things on, speech papers.
Okay.
It'll be my
It'll be your glasses.
Yeah. It'll save
Hey,
your
that's
life
all
one
right.
day. You just wait.
Your
Oh, yeah?
glasses?
Uh-huh.
You're going to say the oath now?
We are your meta sidekicks.
Get ready for this collab. It's going to be great.
That's it. We're done.